Well, good afternoon, brethren and companions. I'm speaking to you from my home in Wickham Bishops, and I'm accompanied today by Colin Felton, who is going to conduct an interview with me, I believe. But as you can see, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm continuing to have treatment in the form of chemotherapy and radiotherapy for my cancer of the lung, which seems to be responding. I get my down days and I get some setbacks, but that is what cancer patients have. I've had to really respect the lockdown because we are classed as extremely vulnerable people. But as you can see, I haven't lost my hair yet. In fact, it's so bad because I haven't been able to get to the barber that my wife had a bit of a hack at it today. But in common with many of you, their hair is badly in need of a proper hairdresser.
Well, sir, I'm sure that the brethren will be delighted to see you in good health, sitting here in this glorious surroundings at the moment. But there are several questions I know that many want to ask you. And the first, I think, is when are we going back?
Well, that is the open question, isn't it? It's by the day it seems in the UK to become more difficult. But I think we are now beginning to make a little bit of progress. Certainly, it's very comforting when the statistics start to go our way a little bit. And I think the number of cases is shrunk quite a lot. And here in the east of England, of course, it does vary across the country. London had it really bad to start with. But here in the east of England, we really have not had it quite so prevalently. So hopefully, with the shops opening today, and I'm speaking to you on the day that all the other shops are now permitted to open. So hopefully, we are on the way towards some kind of restoration. But it's never going to be the same. And I have to say, realistically, we are probably well into the autumn before we can get anything like the semblance of a proper meeting.
Well, thank you, sir. It's another question the brethren have been asking is about promotions, and will they happen, and what happens to all the active ranks from this year?
Well, it is of course up to each lodge, but I think we can probably set an example in the province in that as far as I'm concerned, I mean, unless there is a very quick resumption, which it doesn't appear to be, I think we will be keeping the active ranks exactly the same as they are this year, because the people who are active have not had a chance to undertake the role for which they've been appointed. And in consequence, it seems unfair. I know it slows everything down when we've actually tried to accelerate it in the past, but it seems unfair to not have the opportunity to do the job that you're actually appointed to do. And you're an example of that, are you not?
I am indeed, sir.
Well, and you're doing very well in that role, but I think you need to do it properly. In addition to your role as, of course, as Provincial Grants Charity Steward and as Communications Officer. So I think you need to do that role, and I'm very pleased to have you as one of my wardens, and you need to be able to do it.
Thank you. Does this mean that there will be some new promotions announced?
I think we have to take stock of when this gets back to a proper footing. And of course there's a chapter to consider as well as the craft. What I would say in relation to individual lodges is I think they should be encouraged to do the same. If the master has not had an opportunity to do his work in his lodge, it's a bit unfair on him, and I think he should stay for another year. But it is up to the lodge itself. And it depends when the lodge meets, or when it has its annual meeting. And we have our annual meeting normally for the craft in March, and we have it for the Royal Arch in September. So we have decided already that the appointments made in March that's in the craft, will be renewed next March. I think it's fairly likely that the same will apply to the Royal Arch, because we will not be able to hold a full Royal Arch provincial meeting in September as usual. We may be able to hold it later in the autumn. But even so, the Royal Arch officers who are active have been without doing anything for a long while. So I think when I talked to Nick Franklin, as I've already talked to Paul Reeves, and well, I talk to both of them regularly, I think we will probably agree that they will stay as well.
Excellent. Well, of course, Freemasonry might have been in shutdown, but as we both know, the charity initiatives have been very much ongoing, particularly with COVID-19 and the Essex Freemasons Community Fund.
Yeah.
How do you feel about these initiatives?
Well, I'm very pleased about the Community Fund. I'm very pleased, incidentally, with the work that you are doing, Colin, because you're spearheading some of this. And we have freed up the Provincial Grand Charity Fund, the Essex, to enable it to be more flexible. So the Community Fund is a really good initiative, because what it's designed to do is to help, ultimately, to help the individual lodges support their local communities. And not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a formal charity. So it can be anything ranging from, a cricket net or the repair of the church bells or whatever the lodge wants to do. But what we want to do is to try and help the lodge through the Community Fund by supporting it with match funding. And therefore, Colin has introduced an initiative this year whereby somewhere of the order of £500, if a lodge can raise that, we will try to match fund it. We won't be able to satisfy every request, but we will do what we can, and if we can't do it this year, we'll do it next.
Of course, we're also hoping to have some larger donations to key charities which are big favourites with Freemasons across Essex.
We are very much hoping to do that. We're a regular contributor to the Essex and Herts Air Ambulance, Royal National Lifeboat Institution, Life Lights. I mean, these are regular beneficiaries, I know, but they are really worthwhile, and they are pan profits. They're right across the profits. And we want to support that. And we will be able to do that with a slightly greater flexibility to the Provincial Grand Charity Fund, I think. And we mustn't forget support from the Masonic Charitable Foundation, because they are matching some of our stuff on a pound-for-pound basis. And that means that it has a rightful national and international role, the MCF, but it also has a role in supporting provinces, and it's doing that in spades, and we're really pleased about it.
Of course, as you're aware, sir, the Festival 2022 has effectively lost 1 year of its 5-year tenure, and this is going to cause a little bit of pressure, I'm assuming.
I think it will, and I think we may have to reset targets, but in a way, targets are irrelevant. It's what the Essex brethren actually do that counts, and they are fantastic. And I'm sure that we will pick this up as we resume our normal, as normal as we can, our Masonic meetings. They are the source and inspiration for many fundraising efforts. And we are definitely going to lose stuff, because you get big meetings which raise an enormous amount of money every time they meet. So I think we are going to be struggling a little bit, but let's hope that when we get back to a degree of normality, the charitable stuff will pick up.
Do you think Essex Masons are up to the challenge, sir?
Oh, the Essex Masons are always up to challenges. We've got some fantastic people. And actually, a setback, a pandemic, a crisis like this, actually brings out the best in Masons. And I'm absolutely amazed at what people are still doing. We are ourselves, as an executive, by the way, we are meeting weekly through Zoom, which has proved to be a very good medium. And so I meet with both the executives of the Craft and the Royal Arch together, and we have very useful catch-up meetings, normally about an hour every week, where we can decide certain things. We can decide how we're going to support charities, which then, Colin, you take back to your trustees and are able to move on that. And so we've been able to make some important initiatives, a lot of which were described in the recent edition of Essex Mason, which I thought it was very important that we managed to get out a special edition, a sort of COVID-19 edition. And so hopefully that is another form of communication that has been positive.
Excellent. Of course, what is good to hear is that there are many lodges with initiates ready to become Essex Freemasons.
Indeed, and that again, it's not only initiates, but we have other areas where people are rejoining because of the work that the Freemasons are doing. We do find that there are some lapsed members who are coming back, and I hope that will encourage others to do so.
That's excellent news. So, would you encourage lodges to keep in touch with initiates? And
most certainly, keep them, reassure them that as soon as we're able to, we will be continuing our normal programme of work.
Rodney Bass, Provincial Grand Master for Essex, thank you for your time, sir.
Well, thank you, Colin. Thank you very much indeed for coming to interview me. As I say, I'm dressed very casually, but at least I've got the Provincial logo on the t-shirt. But it's a lovely day, and I would say to all those who are locked down like I am, that all I can say is I am very lucky to have a garden and a house that I can actually potter around in the garden and keep myself a little bit active. And all I do is I send my very best wishes to all the brethren and companions of Essex. We're all Essex Freemasons. And by the way, some of our other orders, the additional orders, like the Mark, are doing some really good stuff, and supplying meals, and I think that is a really good initiative. So it's not just the Craft and the Royal Arch, it's the whole body, the whole Masonic body in Essex. And I send you my warmest greetings, and thank you, Colin, for coming.
Thank you, sir.